Hello everyone, so in this video is one amongst many to come where we try to determine who is the ultimate boss or unit out of the Metal Gear series, starting with the iconic Metal Gear Solid 3.
Metal Gear.
Balls?
Hadouken!
The name's Eva.
That right there is why you're the best, boss. The one and only.
So grab yourself some rations and maybe some instant noodles and get comfy. As most of you guys know, there are a few bosses in the Cobra Unit we can absolutely destroy using exploits that trap the AI into getting slaughtered.
If they knew where he was gonna be, they wouldn't have gotten themselves slaughtered.
Beyond the brilliant Easter eggs, like taking out the End in his wheelchair or waiting for this old relic to kick the bucket, there are exploits that can make beating these iconic World War heroes look like amateurs. Think tricking the fear using the death pill and letting the trap rinse his HP, or stun locking the End with stun grenades, something that hopefully will be reworked in the remake to create a more challenging experience with improved intelligent AI. Konami are really keeping us waiting.
Kept you waiting, huh?
I've decided why not fight these legendary bosses in a way that they deserve. Today I want to try doing it as law friendly as possible, so we're playing on extreme mode using non-lethal to make it hard as possible. This also includes fighting Ocelot and Volgin, and we'll just be relying on tactics and gaming skills.
People who have been through war and survived develop a kind of sixth sense to warn them of danger. Trust your instincts as a soldier, as a gamer.
And for an extra bonus in this video, we will be determining if these bosses ever fought each other, who would win, using what we know about these bosses' skills and abilities. I'll leave the timestamps if that's what you're interested in. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Let's dive straight in.
This video is brought to you by artificial intelligence.
Hey boss, stop using AI!
Python and Selkin. Out.
First up, we've got our favourite cat, Major Ocelot. Right off the bat, we're at a disadvantage with that pesky crevice splitting the battlefield. CQC, not happening today. Ocelot is an incredibly skilled and versatile opponent. He handles them revolvers like a circus act juggling balls. Just ask Volgin, he knows all about that one.
What do you mean?
And one of his neat party tricks is bouncing bullets off different surfaces so you can't stay in one place for too long. Other than that, he doesn't have any bizarre out-of-these-world abilities, apart from he's just a straight-up badass, and he's made of the right stuff since he's the son of the boss. But Ocelot doesn't fight fair. If you know him very well, he's very tenacious, and doesn't mind his buddies getting in on the action. Best method of approach for me was to go straight for the attack. The strategy here was to keep on the move and in cover, and always try to be a step ahead. Ocelot landed a few shots on me, but I got on his tail. Big Boss, being the ultimate troll, would use his environment to his advantage, so of course I shot some of the beehives and his hat off, which kept him busy whilst I planned my next move, since exploits aren't really allowed, and you can actually stun lock Ocelot as well. But where's the fun in that? The problem with Ocelot is he is a man of style, and it can be costly. The revolver, whilst powerful, is a pain in the ass to reload.
You want stopping power? You got it. The only thing is, it takes a while to reload.
Which is perfect for us to land some more shots off.
Son of a... I should dodge that one.
You know what Ocelot's fatal flaw is style over substance. That fancy revolver might look cool, but it's just an absolute nightmare. This guy's young, naive, who reloads out in the open during a battle. It's like he wants us to show off his gun twirling skills and even tries me to a quick draw duel. Nice try, kid.
All done.
Not for honor, but for you. Man, that's such a good song.
We have the Pain, the Cobra Unit member who definitely lives up to his name. This guy commands a swarm of hornets that love stinging everything in sight. His arsenal: pheromone grenades to attract buzzing buddies, hornets that double as grenade delivery systems, and a classic Tommy gun, or the Thompson submachine gun, a gun often used by Western forces during World War II. Starting to sound a bit like Sigit now. And the Pain can use hornets as a bullet B blocking shield, but come on, we're talking about Big Boss here. This should be a walk in the park. So the strategy is quite simple, you've got to get the drop on him early. Usually what helps is a few well-placed shots from Big Boss's favourite gun. Let's be honest, he's infatuated with it.
45, huh? Incredible.
Did you like it?
All of this is to interrupt his grenade fest and switch to the Mark 22 here for some precision headshots. And then we quickly equip and unequip, as a reload technique is really what actually helps here. If he manages to launch his hornet attacks, you can just dodge and repeat. Throw a few of his own grenades back to disrupt his insect army, and when he pulls out his weird bullet B move, same drill, stall with a grenade and just pick him off with a Mark 22. The Pain is a little bit of an oddball to say the least. You'd think you'd carry something a little bit more user-friendly. Just look at the guy. I mean, maybe a horde of turtles might have been a better option, but perhaps not.
All done!
Can you eat pussy like that?
Up next, we have the Fear, a freakish character who can dislocate his joints to move like a spider, jumping between trees like a deranged rabid squirrel. His weapon of choice: a crossbow loaded with poison, grenade, and standard bolts. He's definitely one of the trickiest bosses to beat without exploits.
Oh dear, you're being owned.
He also uses stealth camo to ambush you from unknown areas of the map, but every ninja has his weakness. The thing about the Fear is that his stamina gauge drops fast, sending him into a feeding frenzy. It's actually a wise move to grab the thermal goggles from Razvet, definitely an essential backpack item that can detect heat sources and see through stealth camo. But being the sharpshooter that I am, I tracked him tree to tree, overwhelming him with the Mark 22. He barely had any time to ready his crossbow, and I was then becoming low on ammo, so I had to use the environment around me to actually find an opportunity. And what an opportunity it was. The Fear needs to eat to replenish stamina, and conveniently, some poison dart frogs are just, well, hopping around. I'd definitely say it's karma at work, and we're actually giving him a taste of his own medicine. The problem is, he's not very smart, and even after eating what we provide him, he still continues to eat the frogs that critically deplete his stamina. Hopefully the remake will make him far more intelligent with his AI, because truth be told, even in extreme mode he's actually still quite easy to beat without using the exploits. But with no ammo left, all I needed to do was just rely on my CQC to finish him off, because let's be honest, he was absolutely full of poison. So never fear, Big Boss is here.
All done!
We're just getting started.
Now facing the legendary sniper, potentially the grandfather of one of the hottest babes in MGS 5. This guy has lived over a century and is literally got no problem in waiting. You could sit there and wait for weeks and months. Interestingly, Hideo Kojima actually intended this fight to last 1 to 2 weeks, simulating a real sniper standoff. It'd have been interesting to see how that would have played out. So his abilities are nothing short of incredible. Not only is he a crackshot sniper, but he's got autotropic abilities from photosynthetic moss growing on and in his body. This allows him to produce energy, eliminating the need for food and water. He can even use the sun's rays to quickly recover stamina, something that we rarely, sadly, don't see him do much when we're in the game. He's practically one with the forest. And oh, there's his pesky parrot acting as somewhat of a spotter. So starting this battle with no SVD sniper rifle and an empty Mark 22. Not exactly setting myself up for success here, but I know there's a tiny warehouse ahead packed with ammo with my name on it. Some strategic rolling and dodging later, I'm fully loaded and heading to his usual perch. Truth is, I wish I could experience this fight as a newcomer, when the end seemed impossibly challenging. But let's be honest, muscle memory doesn't work like a memory card. You can't just delete what you know. You know? My tactics were a sniper's worst nightmare. I denied him a long-range advantages using thermal goggles to track his heat signatures and footprints. These gadgets can detect temperature differences, even on recent footprints. All well researched by Kojima Productions. If you haven't seen the MGS free documentary on how they actually made it, I recommend you go check it out. I mean, whilst it was fun and nice not to use the exploits for a change on this old timer, it still felt way too easy. I really feel like the production team could have done so much with the end, and hopefully in the remake they actually capitalise on this by making him far more unpredictable. Don't just have him in the usual sniper points we all know he's going to be at. I feel like the boss fight could be way more improved if the end relied on traps, as well as such as leaving sleep claymores on the ground in undisclosed locations, and even more snares to trap us. And maybe even some decoys with some false ghillie suits to divert our attention. It's definitely something they could improve on, including his parrot that warns him when we are getting far too close. Maybe it's asking for too much, but extreme mode shouldn't really feel like we're playing on easy mode. The tactics here were pretty straightforward. I would hit him with the Mark 22 and follow him into the next location, instantly knowing where he was. His stun grenades were ineffective as the thermals block the flash. Hopefully they give some chaff grenades to this guy on higher difficulties to scramble your vision, otherwise you can literally just chase him down and instantly creep up behind him and pop him again. Still one of my favourite boss battles of all time, but definitely needs reworking in the remake. More unpredictable positioning traps like sleep claymores, decoy ghillie suits and a more strategic parrot warning system. Extreme modes shouldn't feel like easy mode. Sadly, it was truly the end for this old guy. Another one bites the dust.
All done!
Up next we have the Fury, probably by far the most hardest boss in the game in my opinion, because he has the most unpredictable AI out of all the bosses, and there really isn't any exploits you can use against him. And in making this video, he was the only boss I died a few times to. Even after playing it several times, he always seems to surprise you. As you know, this guy is kitted out in a astronaut flame suit, you know? He carries a flamethrower that can actually reach out for quite a few yards, with plenty of heat, and not to mention, that jetpack system he's got allows him to fly around with ease. He even remains stationary sometimes whilst in the air, but the best part about him is he really loves barbecues. But in this task, we're not exactly having a cookout. This guy is here to try cremate me and fly back to space. The Fury is relentless in his attacks and causes unrelenting damage. He either lands to the left side or the right side of the map, and sometimes even in front of you. His attack responses are very sharp and precise. Whoever programmed the Fury, you sir are a genius. The Fury becomes way more aggressive as well the lower his health becomes. I love how the music as well intensifies whilst this happens. And he charges down lanes with fires, and just sometimes spontaneously just flies away and lands in areas unexpected. You can hear him moving around, but you're not exactly sure what lane he's in. The box is your best friend because it can completely avoid the flames. In battle, it's all about how quick you respond with your attacks with the Mark 22. Yes, you're probably asking why didn't I use the Moisen Nagin and just catch him in different lanes and snipe him? But that's far too easy. Give me a challenge. So it's all about how quick you respond with your attacks, otherwise the Fury can just engulf you with flames. But you can trap him. If you catch him by surprise at the start of the fight and move away in the box to avoid the flames, by then he will try to fly away. But if you're quick enough, you can stop him from moving from a stationary location and just keep rinsing and repeating and snapping the Mark 22 up before he tries to jet thrust away. But unlike any other boss, where you can use exploits to destroy them, the Fury's AI responds quickly and sharply, but if you're fortunate enough, you can lock him in place after firing a few rounds.
All done!
Fight like a man, Volgin.
Volgin?
And now we face Colonel Volgin. This guy's got some unusual abilities, like his advanced strength, and he even uses a Makarov pistol as a sidearm, but not really in the fight. However, this is the most notable of his ability, is a physical anomaly in his body that allows him to generate 10 million volts of electricity.
My body carries an electric charge of 10 million volts. Let's see how you like this.
He's put together a combined attack with electrical powers, which consists of holding 4 bullets between his knuckles and punching the enemy. This attack has the damage of the punch plus the bullet's gunpowder causing a gunshot-like effect. He's got several attack patterns. Sometimes he can even absorb your bullets you shoot at him and fire them back at you. Volgin can electrify metallic objects, sending out beams of electricity to create a shield to protect himself from gunshots, and channel his electricity into things. Volgin's electricity is attracted to metal, and his powers can be weakened if he comes into contact with water. Unfortunately, we don't have a water gun. There's no doubt he has superhuman abilities and strength. He wears a rubber combat suit to protect himself from the electricity, which had previously caused the scars on his face. The suit acts as a conduit to harness electricity. He often uses different attack patterns in this fight, such as firing electrical charges at you and firing electrical charges, and every so often firing bullets from them electrical charges like a gun, and a charge attack that blasts a load of bullets at you, and a combination of vicious melee attacks if you get too close. So in this fight was easy enough. By staying relatively close to Volgin, you can just use CQC against him and blast him with the sniper when he stands up about 3 times by quickly equipping and unequipping it. For the second stage, he does a charge shot which is easy enough to avoid by lying on the ground and waiting till his charge drops, and hit him with more CQC and hit him again with a sniper, just repeating the same patterns. There is a moment where he tries to recharge, which lets us land more attacks on him, but the key within this fight was just staying close, prompting him to use more melee attacks, which makes it easy to beat him because, well, he's easy to avoid when he's not using his long range attacks.
All done!
Yes!
Finally, we have the boss, the legendary war hero of her generation who has fought in countless wars and has been very successful. The boss is skilled in various combat techniques and is a natural born leader. She has something that many do not. Aside from her horn skills, she has natural talent that sets her apart from the rest. And incredible CQC, unlike anyone else we've seen in the series, a tactician on many fields of warfare, and she can adapt to nearly any environment. In this fight, she wields the legendary Patriot that carries infinite ammo, that has lethal stopping power and fire rate, and she mostly relies on her CQC to bring her opponents out of the game. In this final boss battle, our tactics are crucial to defeating the boss. Big Boss's skills are now more than ready to take on such a legend at this point. At the beginning of this duel, the boss will always rush you for a CQC attack, but if you're quick enough you can counter nearly every time. The trick is to blast her with a sniper 2 times, slam her to the ground and hit her once more, before quickly retreating to cover before she tries to fire her gun at you. We would hide behind trees as cover, or maybe hide in the grass. Weapons aren't completely hopeless in this fight because if you catch the boss off guard you can hit her, but if she sees you, she has the ability to block incoming bullets with some sort of bullet blocking shield, rendering guns completely useless. There is a way, just like some of the other bosses, you can stun lock her, but we're not going to use those exploits. Just using the same techniques as before, trying to counter her attacks and hit her with a sniper, and once again hit her on the ground. But if you're not quick enough in this process, the boss will counter CQC you before you slam her to the ground, doing very immense damage. She's not the easiest boss battle by any means, but she's not the most difficult to beat once you master countering her attacks. Sadly, we beat the legendary boss, but she goes out dying for her country, preventing all-out war like a true patriot.
All done!
Yes!
So by now you're probably wondering who is the toughest boss battle in MGS3, and for me, I decided on a clear winner. Drum roll please.
I am the Fury! The flames of my rage will incinerate you.
Yes, I had to pick the Fury. While lore-wise he may not be the toughest boss or strongest, but in terms of gameplay, he is far the toughest boss you can face. His unpredictability that makes him a standout boss and well-deserved champion of taking the win in this epic title. So by now you're interested to see my tier list regarding the other bosses, so I made my own little list. You don't have to agree with it, this is just my opinion, and feel free to let me know your tier list in the comment section down below. With all that being said, let's move on to see who would be the strongest out of all the bosses if they fought against each other. After a clear examination of all the bosses' abilities, I came to the conclusion that the Pain would lose to all the bosses, starting with Ocelot. While the Pain has supernatural abilities and commands of Hornets, I don't believe it would be enough to stop Ocelot, as he would use his gun-twirling skills to just kill off most of the Hornets. With his quick draw abilities and bouncing bullets off walls, he'd cause major problems for the Pain. Looking at their arsenals, Ocelot relies on his revolvers and not much else, while the Pain can cause his bees to transport grenades and create bullet bees and shields, and could definitely give Ocelot some issues during his reloads. But Ocelot has his unit as fodder, keeping the Pain busy whilst he reloads and spams out some deadly shots. As for the Fear, I reckon he would easily get the upper hand given his stealth camo capabilities and quick agile movements. Leaping between vantage points, he could pick apart the Pain using explosive bolts to destroy his shield and poison him to slowly weaken his health. While the Pain's Hornets might see through the Fear's stealth, they likely wouldn't pose too much of a threat, making the Fear the clear winner. Now the End would likely defeat the Pain depending on the environment. In close range, the Pain might get the upper hand, but the End's uncanny connection with nature might make him immune to the Hornets. His precise lethal sniper shots would lower the pain's stamina very fast. Plus he has grenades to destroy the bee's shield and keep the pain pinned whilst moving to new vantage points, even using the stun grenades as a point of being able to make himself vanish into new areas. I think the end would somehow just get the upper hand in this fight. Now, the Fury would completely destroy the Pain, no doubt, with his relentless flamethrower attacks would render and burn all the Hornets completely, making the Pain's attacks completely useless. The Pain would be overwhelmed by the flames, and all he could rely on is his Tommy gun. That's assuming if he could even hit the Fury to begin with, given on his jetpack mobility. I'd say that the Fury is definitely a clear winner. So what about Colonel Volgin? I'd say no contest. Any Hornets getting near him would be fried by his electrical charge, and his millions of volts would both destroy the Pain and his Hornets completely. Plus, Volgin has an entire GRU unit for support if we want to count that in. But we also have to take into account environmental factors like water that could pose problems for Volgin. If Colonel Volgin has his electrical charge on, anything that gets near him like Hornets will just instantly be destroyed. Environmentally speaking, there could be a few issues for Volgin, but I still believe he would emerge victorious in this battle. So finally, the boss would use her Infinite Patriot to blast away any incoming Hornets and the Pain himself. He wouldn't dare try to use close range CQC against her because she's the best in that field. The boss would definitely overwhelm him with the Patriot until getting close enough for a CQC finish.
The firepower of that Patriot pistol the boss is using is beyond compare. In a straight shootout, you'd lose every time.
So with this analysis, it's fair to say that the Pain would lose this one and is definitely out of the competition.
You have been eliminated from the contest.
So now we come to the Fear. Since the Pain is out of the equation, we'll move on to the end. Personally, I believe the Fear would make short work of this legendary sniper because of his quick movements, allowing him to move tree to tree whilst cloaked in stealth camo. He could reach in high vantage points, scout the end's location, and pick him apart with various bolt attacks. The Fear's only challenge would be dealing with nature itself, and the noise he'd make, rustling leaves and startled birds that could give away his position. The end might use these natural signs to scope out the Fear, who has the worst stamina of all the bosses. However, the end's age means he tires easily, and the Fear has youth on his side and it could be used to an advantage. He'd likely start by killing the end's parrot spotter, and being that kind of guy, he'd probably eat the parrot, as well as plenty other animals located in the forest. Whilst the end might be able to use photosynthesis to recover, it takes a lot longer for his stamina gauge to go up, which means the Fear could just pick him apart. The Fear would definitely win this battle. Now for the Fear versus the Fury. Both incredibly are tough opponents. This matchup would heavily depend on the environment. In a forest, the Fury would likely win by burning all the trees and foliage, forcing the Fear from hiding and into close range where he'd be incinerated. However, in environments where the fire is less effective, the Fear could potentially win using stealth and agility. But really, it is all circumstantial. If the Fury was to face the Fear in a water kind of environment, you could say that the Fear would definitely have the advantage because the Fear could just use the water in order to get the flames off his suit. But the Fury's relentless nature, and the fact that he also has unique fuel mixtures such as UDMH and NTO, and that burns a lot longer than it would normally would with just normal fuel, which could potentially burn the water as well, and it would create too much smoke for the Fear's weak stamina. Whilst the Fear has the agility to move from place to place very quickly, also does the Fury with his jetpack. He can even remain stationary in one position. The battle between these two is a very, very close call, and I have to give this one to the Fury. You let me know what you guys think. Against Volgin, the Fear's limited stealth camo and agility might force Volgin to rely on his GRU unit with thermal goggles, unless he wore some himself to see through the Fear's stealth camo. The Fear would make short work of the unit, possibly using one as a human shield to mislead Volgin for an ambush. However, Volgin's electromagnetic properties would block incoming metallic bolts, and once the Fear runs out of bolts and Volgin's charges deplete, it would come down to hand-to-hand combat, where Volgin's crippling punch power would definitely prevail. The environment plays a huge role in the Fear's territory. Volgin might lose without power sources to charge from, but in Volgin's domain, the Fear would ultimately fall, because Volgin has access to electrical sources, and with Volgin's different range of attacks, I definitely think he'd outmatch the Fear in this battle. The Fear versus Ocelot would be a complex matchup. Whilst the Fear stealth camo gives him an edge, it's very limited. But we have to remember, Ocelot has very sharp wits and great intelligence gathering, which means he'd know everything about the Fear's capabilities. Though Ocelot's abilities might seem limited compared to the Fear's supernatural ones on paper, he would come prepared with thermal goggles and possibly sedative-laced bullets. His Cobra Unit could also provide backup, and because he's high up in the echelons of power, he might even have access to prototype electromagnetic shield technology to block bullets and bolts, like we've seen later in the series.
Come, put me out of my misery.
This is impossible. Nothing will hit her.
Not just with force field protecting capabilities, but stealth camo. MGS 3 showcases that these could have been the early prototypes to be what they eventually would become later in the series that would definitely be more redefined.
The stealth camo's busted. Landing impact.
We must have overused it. Sorry, but you're gonna have to deal with it.
Do you know why no bullet could hit you? It wasn't magic, or some new age mumbo-jumbo. Certainly wasn't your psychic talents. It was all staged by the Patriots.
Staged?
You were being shielded by the electromagnetic weapons technology that the Patriots developed.
It missed.
Now I remember. Your heart's on the right. Waste of metal, my dear, but your luck's run out. This is the little gizmo. There's no such thing as miracles or the supernatural, only cutting-edge technology.
But truth be told, in a battle of wills, Ocelot has this unnatural ability, just like the boss and Big Boss himself, and I definitely think he wouldn't even need to rely on any of this technology even if it was at his disposal, because he's just that damn good, and therefore he would beat the Fear.
My friends, let us fight together again.
I have waited long for this day.
We will fight with you once more.
Finally, against the boss, we have a clear winner. The boss knows absolutely everything about the Fear and how he operates and how to counter all of his tactics. With her protective shield and unlimited Patriot ammo, the Fear might hide temporarily, but she'd track him down easily, and once his bolts are depleted, he'd have nothing left. The boss would be the clear winner, using CQC to get the upper hand. This is practically a non-contest. Of course, all of this thus far is all just speculation, and it could be completely different given under different circumstances. But with the knowledge we understand about these characters, allows us to determine an outcome that seems reasonable, at least in my opinion, but yours may differ.
You have been eliminated from the contest.
I am the end. I am here to send you to your ultimate fate.
Up next is the end, and I've determined he would only beat the Pain and no one else. We know he loses to the Fear, and he definitely would fall to the Fury given on the abilities explained in the latter. Characters like Ocelot and Volgin, who would do whatever it takes to win, could have easily ended him in his wheelchair before the fight. But even in a fair fight, the end would likely still perish. He'd be overwhelmed by Gru forces hunting him down, forcing him to pick them off, but this would give away his position since the Moisant Nagant has no suppressant, and he needs to reload after every shot. When you compare this to every other boss's capability, aside from the Pain, it seems unlikely the end would win. While he's still a great warrior and maybe the best of his era, the younger generation is better suited to beat him.
The time has come for a younger generation to rise.
The boss would probably give the End a fair fight, but chances are she'd still come out on top. The End would give his best effort, but his non-lethal approach is too slow and not aggressive enough against the likes of these other bosses I've mentioned who would beat him. So unfortunately, we have to eliminate him out of the contest. But bear in mind, this is all just a subjective opinion.
You have been eliminated from the contest.
So now this brings us to the Fury, who would beat everyone so far in the Cobra Unit, but that leaves Ocelot, Volgin and the boss. Against Ocelot, regardless of environment, I think Ocelot would outsmart the Fury's aggressive nature, using his cunning intellect and brilliant intuition. Unlike with Snake, who's a stealth master, the Fury is loud and very talkative. Ocelot could easily pinpoint the Fury's lanes and bounce bullets off the walls without giving away his location. He'd keep on the move, keeping a sharp ear out for the Fury's clunky suit and remarks, attacking from surprise and causing the Furies to rage and make mistakes. Being the master of intelligence gathering, Ocelot would be well prepared for a firefight.
This is war, Major. A Cold War, fought with information and espionage. We must root out spies wherever they hide. It is kill or be killed.
Even having countermeasures if he caught the flames, and having several equipment at his disposal.
That leaves only the Fury. How can the legendary Cobras be beaten so easily?
He's good.
Despite needing to reload, there's plenty of cover for Ocelot to make his shots count, making him the clear victor. Now for Volgin versus the Fury. This is where science gets interesting in a battle between fire and electricity, a battle between elements. Several factors come into play. Electricity can theoretically enhance fire under certain conditions. High voltage sparks could ignite flammable materials, intensifying flames. However, fire and high heat can disrupt electrical systems, possibly melting equipment or ionizing air into plasma, redirecting Volgin's attacks. Environmental factors are crucial in flammable-rich areas. The Fury's fire could overwhelm Volgin by spreading uncontrollably. In high humidity, electricity has the advantage since it travels through moisture whilst fire struggles. And depending on environmental factors, the Fury could weaken Volgin by shooting the pipes bursting water out, because as we know, Volgin is actually weakened to water, which lowers his electrical charge.
You can entertain me until the rain stops.
And given on the Fury's fuel type, the water doesn't exactly put it out straight away, so the Fury could definitely have the advantage here as well. The Fury's heat-resistant suit might shield him from electricity, but Volgin's electrical discharge could deplete oxygen locally, weakening the Fury's flames. In most scenarios, Volgin's electricity would win due to its versatility and overwhelming power, though the Fury could theoretically win by using the environment strategically. While this fight seems like it could end on a clear stalemate given on the forces of these elements and certain conditions, I would have to still give this to Volgin and hand him the win, simply because he has far more weaponry in his arsenal, such as bullets and lethal melee attacks. Finally, against the boss, she would likely prevail due to her superior tactical intellect, combat experience and adaptability. The Fury's obsession with vengeance and reliance on his flamethrower makes him predictable. The boss could manipulate his rage, drawing him into traps by exploiting his emotional instability. She might feign retreat, luring him into confined spaces where heat and smoke work against him. The boss's mastery of stealth and guerrilla warfare would let her use the environment to her advantage. The Fury's reliance on his spacesuit and fuel tanks does make him vulnerable to precise strikes. A well-placed shot or knife throw could easily ignite his fuel reserves, and being the master of sabotage the boss is, she could render his flamethrower completely useless by stealthily placing a charge on his fuel tank. Whilst the Fury's raw power is dangerous, the boss's tactical genius and combat mastery would ultimately prevail, all explaining why she is in the first place leading the Cobra Unit.
That gun the boss is using is a one-of-a-kind sidearm she had made especially for her. They call it the Patriot. Basically, they took the Army's experimental XM16E1, cut the barrel short, and took off the stock. It handles like a handgun, but it's got the stopping power of a rifle. Because the barrel is cut so short, it's got some nasty recoil though. I can't believe she's using it with one hand. Now I see why she's the leader of the Cobras and a legendary hero.
He's a living legend. During World War II, she was the one who led us to victory in that war. In Russia, you know her as Voyevoda.
You mean the boss?
Not only does everybody fear her, they also have a great deal of respect for the boss, and that's why they're more than happy to be under her command. And in my evaluation, comes to the conclusion that the Fury is out of the equation.
You have been eliminated from the contest.
I see the earth.
In this final stretch of our analysis in the finality, we're examining the two crucial matchups against Colonel Volgin and Ocelot. First, let's break down how Ocelot would fare against the electrical giant. Throughout Metal Gear Solid 3, Ocelot demonstrated his clear intellectual superiority over Volgin, masterfully playing his role as a triple agent without ever arousing suspicion. Not once did Volgin catch on that Ocelot was working with the CIA, assisting both Snake and the boss in their mission to retrieve the legacy. What's particularly telling is Ocelot's demeanour. He never showed an ounce of fear when facing Volgin. Instead, he stood toe-to-toe with him, knowing he already had outmanoeuvred the Colonel at every turn. While Ocelot is known for fighting dirty, he shows moments of fair play, like when he provided Snake with weapons to combat Volgin, though we all know Snake could have handled him without them. This speaks volumes about both Ocelot's character and his assessment of Volgin's true capabilities. The defining moment came when Ocelot directly defied Volgin's cowardly order to shoot Snake during their battle. When Volgin lashed out at this insubordination, Ocelot brilliantly used his revolver skills, turning Volgin's electrical attacks against him by conducting them through his bullets. In a one-on-one fight, Ocelot would likely mirror Snake's successful strategy, using his signature ricocheting bullets to bypass Volgin's electromagnetic defences. Ironically, we even see revolver bullets available to Snake if he needs them, which is very telling. Also combined with the CQC techniques clearly taught to him by the boss, Ocelot would emerge victorious whenever through stealth or direct confrontation.
Silence! I am your commanding officer.
And as for the boss versus Volgin, this matchup is even more decisive. Even in environments where Volgin could recharge his electrical abilities, the boss's superior agility and combat expertise would give her an overwhelming advantage. She has far more experience in combat than Volgin ever has. Her mastery of CQC, as we've seen in various cutscenes, far surpasses Volgin's brute force approach. Perhaps most importantly, she holds a crushing psychological advantage. Volgin's fear of the boss is palpable throughout most of their interactions in the game. Even though it seems like Volgin is leading the operation, you can clearly tell that the boss is in charge and is definitely the master in this relationship.
I'm afraid I must ask you to show me some proof that you and he were not in collusion.
You don't trust me, is that it?
Not that, but he is your apprentice.
Effectively, she eliminates him from serious contention in this challenge, only now leaving mother versus son, Ocelot versus the boss. But sadly for Colonel Volgin, this now makes him eliminated.
You have been eliminated from the contest.
We are at the moment of truth, the very final of this epic contest, mother versus son. It's Ocelot versus the boss. Now this would be an interesting fight in terms of combat, but emotionally and psychologically not so much. The series doesn't ever really directly tell us that the two are aware that they are related. The only way that it's known is that we have been told through different sources and the boss herself, and by stating the obvious points that clearly show that they are related. That's not to say that they don't actually know of each other's, well, relation. The reason I suggest this is because this would, I believe, turn in favour for Ocelot, as I can't see the boss killing her son, the very son she gave birth to in the middle of battle. MGS3 kinda hints at a mother-son dynamic in the way the boss deals with Ocelot when he gets too carried away. He behaves like a child being told off by a parent kind of way. But anyway, this isn't about a family reunion, this is a fight. And by now we both know the skills they possess, and I think it goes without saying the boss would get the upper hand. There are only so many bullets Ocelot can fire before he needs to reload, giving the boss the ample opportunity to disarm and disable his guns, forcing Ocelot into a CQC battle. Whilst he would put up an epic fighter's showcase when he fought Big Boss, he is still far too green and lacks in the experience. But in sheer technique, the boss would outclass him and literally ground his ass. No pun intended. Even if the boss and Ocelot used all pieces of advanced technology, like we've just mentioned in the ladder, it would force them into a hand-to-hand battle regardless. If Ocelot had a lot more experience on his side and had time to fully hone his skills, there's more than a good chance he would beat the boss. But yes, unfortunately, he's eliminated, and out of this entire contest, the boss remains the true ultimate soldier, with undeniable talents and skills that make the impossible look possible. We know Big Boss is the obvious winner out of everyone, but in this matchup, the boss definitely wins the crown. So there we have it. Here's my secondary tier list on who was the best boss out of the entire unit. Well, aside from Masoro, because you can't really kill what's already dead. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching the video, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments down below on what you think about these epic battles. I'd love to know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, as it makes Eva extremely happy, and if you're new, consider subscribing. Keep those notification bells on for any new video I drop, because YouTube sometimes like to play shadow ban. Anyway, until we meet again.
Spotted 2 enemy soldiers.
They're probably KGB troops sent to guard Sokolov.
AK-47s and grenades.